Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chapter 6, Text 1. Brahmavacha. Vacham Vahne Murkham Kshetram Chandasham Saptadratavaha Havya Kavyam Ratananam Jihva Sarva Rasasya.
Translation. Lord Brahma said, the mouth of the Viratrasura, the universal form of the Lord, is the generating center of the voice, and the controlling deity is fire. His skin and 6 other layers are the generating centers of the Vedic hymns, and his tongue is the productive center of different foodstuffs and delicacies for offering to the demigods, the forefathers, and the general mass of people.
Text 2. Sarvasunam cha vayoscha tanna se paramayane ashvino shatinam cha drano moda pramodayoha.
His 2 nostrils are the generating centers of our breathing and of all other airs. His smelling powers generate the Aswini Kumara demigods and all kinds of medicinal herbs, and his breathing energizes, produce different kinds of fragrance.
Text 3. Rupanam tejasham chakshu divya suryasya chakshini karuno disham chatirthanam kshotra makaksha shabdayo.
His eyes are the generating centers of all kinds of forms, and they glitter and illuminate. His eyeballs are like the sun and heavenly planets. His ears hear from all sides and are receptacles for the Vedas, and his sense of hearing is the generating center of the sky and all kinds of sound.
Text 4. Taddatram vastu saranam saubhagyasya cha bhajanam tvagasya sarvasparshava yoscha sarvamegasya chaivahi.
His bodily surface is the breeding ground for the active principles of everything and for all kinds of auspicious opportunities. His skin, like the moving air, is the generating center for all kinds of sense of touch and is the place for performing all kinds of sacrifice.
Text 5. Romanyu Vijja Jatinam Yerva Yagnastu Sambritaha Cheshas Marshu Nakyansi Asya Sheila Lahabara Vidyutam.
The hairs on his body are the cause of all vegetation, particularly of those trees which are required as ingredients for sacrifice. The hairs on his head and face are reservoirs for the clouds, and his nails are the breeding ground of electricity, stones, and iron ores.
Text 6. Bahavo loka palanam prayasha kshema karmanam.
The Lord's arms are the productive fields for the great demigods and other leaders of the living entities who protect the general mass.
Text 7. Vikramo Purpurvasvascha Kshemasya Sharana Syacha Sarva Kama Varasyapi Harishcharana Aspadam.
Thus, the forward steps of the Lord are the shelter for the upper, lower, and heavenly planets, as well as for that we need. His lotus feet serve as protection from all kinds of fear.
Text 8. Apamviryasya Sargasya Parjanyasya Prajayatpate Pumshaha Shisna Upasthastu Prajatyananda Nivrate.
From the Lord's genitals originate water, semen, generatives, rains, and the procreators. His genitals are the cause of a pleasure that counteracts the distress of begetting.
Text 9. Payurma Yamasya Mitrasya Parimokshasya Narada himsaya niruttray mrityo niryasya gudam smritam.
O Narada, the evacuating outlet of the universal form of the Lord is the abode of the controlling deity of death, Mitra, and the evacuating hole of the rectum of the Lord is the place of envy, misfortune, death, hell, etc.
Text 10. Parabhuter dharmasya tamasascha pipaschim maha nadyo nadanadinam cha gotranam asthit samhate.
The back of the Lord is the place for all kinds of frustration and ignorance, as well as for immorality. From his veins flow the great rivers and rivulets, and on his bones are stacked the great mountains.
Text 11. Avyakta rasisitunam bhutam nidhanasya cha udaram viditam pumsho radayam manasaha padam.
The impersonal feature of the Lord is the abode of great oceans, and his belly is the resting place for the materially annihilated living entities. His heart is the abode of the subtle material bodies of living beings. Thus, it is known by the intelligent class of men.
Text 12. Dharmasya mama tubhyam cha kumaranam bhavasya cha vignanasya cha sattvasya parasyatma parayanam.
Also, the consciousness of the great personality is the abode of the religious principles, mine, yours, and those of the four bachelors, Sanka, Sanatana, Sanat Kumara, and Sandana. The consciousness is also the abode of truth and transcendental knowledge.
Text 13 to 16. Aham bhavan bhavaschaiva jaivata ime manu yograjaha sura surinara nagaha khagamruga sarishrupaha gandharvapsara soyaksha raksho bhuta gano ragaha pashavaha pitara siddha vidyadrascharana druma अन्ये च विविधा जीवा जलस्थन बहुकसः ग्रहक्षके तवस्तारास्तदितं स्तनयितवः सर्वं पुरुष एवेदं भूतं भव्यं भवच्च यत् तेनेदमावृतं विश्वं वितस्ते मधि.
Beginning from me, Brahma, down to you, and Bhava, Siva, all the great sages who were born before you, the demigods, the demons, the nagas, the human beings, the birds, the beasts, as well as the reptiles, etc., and all phenomenal manifestations of the universes, namely the planets, stars, asteroids, luminaries, lightning, thunder, and the inhabitants of different planetary systems, namely the Gandharvas, Asparas, Yakshas, Rakshas, Bhutaganas, Ukaras, Parasus, Pitas, Siddhas, Vidyadharas, Ganasas, and all of the different varieties of living entities, including the birds, beasts, trees, and everything that be, are all covered by the universal form of the Lord at all times, namely past, present, and future, although he is transcendental to all of them, eternally existing in a form not exceeding 9 inches.
Text 17. Swadishnayam pratapan prano bahishcha pratapatyaso evam virajam pratapan saptyantab bahim puman.
The sun illuminates both internally and externally by expanding its radiation. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by expanding his universal form, maintains everything in his creation both internally and externally.
Text 18. Somritasya bayasyesho mrityam manam yatyagat mahimesha tato brahman purushasya duratyayah.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the controller of immortality and fearlessness, and he is transcendental to death and the fruitive actions of the material world. O Narada, O Brahma, it is therefore difficult to measure the glories of the Supreme Person.
Text 19. Padeshu sarva bhutani pumsham sthiti pado vido amrutam kshemama bhayam trimurto dayimo dasu.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead is to be known as the supreme reservoir of all material opulences by 1/4 of its energy in which all living entities exist. Deathlessness, fearlessness, and freedom from the anxieties of old age and disease exist in the kingdom of God, which is beyond the 3 higher planetary systems and beyond the material coverings.
Text 20. Tadas stroyo bahishchasan prajanam ya ashrama antastrilokya tvaparo gruhamedyo bruhadva vrataha.
The spiritual world, which consists of 3/4 of the Lord's energy, is situated beyond this material world, and it is especially meant for those who will never be reborn. Others, who are attached to family life and who do not strictly follow celibacy vows, must live within the 3 material worlds.
Text 21. Sruti vicha krame vishwan sha shanan shane ube yada vidyacha purushastu bayashreha.
By his energies, the all-pervading personality of Godhead is thus comprehensively the master of all the activities of controlling and in devotional service. He is the ultimate master of both essence and factual knowledge of all situations.
Text 22. Yasmadaya anam virad jagne bhutendriya gunatmakaha tadravya matyagad vishwam gobihe surya iva tapan.
From that personality of Godhead, all the universal globes and the universal form with all material elements, qualities, and senses are generated, yet he is aloof from such material manifestations, like the sun, which is separate from its rays and heat.
Text 23.
That's it. I think that's it.
I think.
Is it text 23 as well, Mataji?
Yeah.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for your recitation. Beautiful. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Text 23. Yadasyana linad dahamasam mahatmanaha navidam yagna sambharam purushavaya vanrute.
When I was born from the abdominal lotus flower of the Lord, Mahavishnu, the great person, I had no ingredients for sacrificial performances except the bodily limbs of the great personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Falguni Mataji and Girish Prabhu, for your wonderful recitation. Okay, can you see the slides on the screen now?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay, thank you. Just bear with me a moment. This will start with the prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Agnanatimirandhasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manubhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं कृष्णचैतन्य ईश्वरम् नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी सतां प्रसङ्गान् मम वीर्यसंविदो भवन्ति रत्कणरसायना कथाः तज्जोषनादाशपवर्गवर्त्मनि श्रद्धारतिर्भक्तिरनुक्रमिष्यति. Thank you, dear devotees. I'm really grateful to be here again after many months. So please forgive my mistakes today, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to discuss Srimad Bhagavatam in your wonderful association. So I seek your blessings and I'll share something with my limited knowledge and understanding. So please forgive me. So today I am told we are discussing 5 to 7 verses of 6th chapter of 2nd canto. So okay. So just a bit of background. I was told that I should try and go through a little bit backwards also. And a recap should be done today. I was told today by senior devotees, so I will try my best. So as we know, in the 5th chapter of this canto, Narad Muni asked 6 questions to Brahmaji. And why it is important, why we are discussing 5th chapter, because today's verses are related to the 6th question, which is Yacha. What is it composed of? So I thought we'll quickly go through the 6 questions and what are the answers. So then that gives us idea of where we are today. Just give me one moment. So Narad Muni is asking Brahmaji, Yad Rupam, what are the characteristics of this universe? What is the universe made up of? So there are 5 components of this universe. In brief, the answer is that universe is non-different from Vasudev, right? And being his differentiated parts and parcels, but he exists in truth. So universe is part and parcel of Vasudev, all the components. And these are 5 components. First is Dravya, Kala, Karma, Swabhava, and Jiva. These 5 things are the characteristics of universe. So anyone would like to say what is Dravya? What are the material ingredients of the universe? We studied this already in the 5th chapter. The answer was in the 14th verse. What are the material universes? This material elements this universe is made up of?
Earth, water, fire.
5 elements.
Excellent. Yes, Rupa
Air,
Mataji.
ether.
Yeah, correct. Thank you so much. And so that is Dravya. Then Kala. Kala means time, right? time influences everything. Say, for example, on this desk, if I keep an apple, it is very fresh today. But after 2 days, it will not be. If there is a fresh flower now, it's going to fade. So time affects everything. Then third thing is karma. So what is karma? We have discussed also in Bhagavad Gita. What are the 5 things? There is 5 classifications of karma, right? Or you can tell as per your understanding. What is karma? I thought we can make it a bit interactive instead of...
Like Mataji, Sakarma, Vikarma.
Yeah, okay, yes, good. That is fine. Sakarma, Vikarma, okay. Anything else? Okay, so karma is basically action, right? Karma can also mean in different contexts reaction to our action. Karma can mean, thirdly, prescribed duty. Karma can also mean the whole chain of action and reaction. And the fifth thing is karma can also mean fruitive action, like how Mataji said, sakam karma, right? Where we have a desire for fruits. So these are the 5 things: action, action reaction, whole chain of action reaction, prescribed duty, sakam karma, which is where you do fruitive action, and reaction to action, that is karma. Then the fourth thing, the character, we are still on the first question. Basically, I'm discussing the characteristics of the universe. So dravya, kala, karma, swabhava. What is swabhava? Swabhava, we all have swabhava, right? What is swabhava?
Nature. Nature.
Yes, yes.
Nature.
Rupa Mataji, Shavani Mataji, correct. Nature, attributes, nature, our mindset, all the impressions that the mind stores. It could be positive, it could be negative impressions, right? So all that is comes under Swabhava. And the fifth thing is Jiva. So Yad Rupam is Dravya, Kala, Karma, Swabhava and Jiva. Then Yad Adhishtanam. What is its shelter? So what is the shelter of the universe? Yad Adhishtanam and Yat Param. These 2 questions actually, what it depends on. For this, answer is same for question 2 and question 5. Can anyone guess or no? What is the shelter
Krishna.
of... Yes, correct. Lord Vasudev, right? He is, it all depends on Lord Narayan. He is the shelter of whatever we see in the universe, and anything that is worth taking shelter of is Narayan. Everything comes from him. And even though Lord is not at all affected by gunas, but still he takes the powerful material energies. Because of that, the universe takes place. And Brahmaji creates, Shiva destroys, and Lord maintains. Then the third question is Yat Shrishtam. How is it created? So, how is it created? Well, there was that entire thing, creation chart, and there were so many verses in this 5th chapter, verses 21 to 35, right? Creation chart. So, just in brief, we know Karno Dakshai Vishnu or Mahavishnu. He glances on the material energy Maya, and then what happens is it infuses with karma, swabhava and jivas, and when the time enters, then the entire thing activates. And then it comes into the state of pradhana, and pradhana turns into Mahat Tattva. And then there are the 3 modes. Then from Sattva and Rajas mode, then the prominent mode that takes place is Ahankar. And then from Ahankar again, goodness, passion and ignorance comes. And then the 10 sense devatas, mind, prana, intelligence, 10 senses, all these manifest. 5 tanmantras, 5 elements. All this also we will discuss today. In Yacha also this is connected. And thereafter, when all the 23 elements are assembled by Lord's Maya Shakti, after 1,000 years of inactivity, Garbhodakshai Vishnu enters that universal egg, and then he enlivens it. So basically, the body, the jivas are entered through Mahavishnu, but the jivas' bodies are created later by Garbhodakshai Vishnu. And yeah, so then Yat Samstham is another question. How is it conserved? In what it merges at destruction? So we all know, right? What will it merge into? Again, Karnodakshai Vishnu. Mahavishnu creates, and then at the time of dissolution, everything goes back in Karnodaksha Vishnu by him, and it all merges in him. So that is Yat Samstham. And the last question is Yatcha. So what is it composed of? What are its ingredients? And that is also the first 17 verses of 6th chapter. Brahma answers Yatcha. So the Lord as the material cause of the universe. And so the ingredients we will discuss, it is Garbhodakshai Vishnu's senses, our senses, sense object, elements, sense devtas, everything manifests at during this Yatcha. So we'll see that in detail. Also, just one more thing before we start the verses to discuss, I was told is Purusha Shukta. This chapter is titled Purusha Shukta Confirmed. So why Srila Prabhupada is saying Purusha Shukta confirmed? So Purusha Shukta are the prayers from Rig Veda. And in many South Indian temples, they recite these mantras very often. To do deity worship also, these mantras are recited. And they come from Rig Veda, from Shruti. Now, Shruti is basically what you call all the truths and aphorisms. And Shukracharya's followers or some philosophers, they very much stress on this, that the Lord is impersonal, because there is no mention there about Lord's form in these prayers of Purusha Shukta, and they very much give importance to impersonalism, that Lord's form is not personal. Whereas the Smriti, which are the Puranas, like Srimad Bhagavatam, which is full of narrations of Lord's pastimes, his devotees' pastimes, which obviously means that Lord is personal. Now, uh, to make sense of what Bhagavatam says, the verses and Purusha Shukta, how they correlate, is very much evident from some verses of 5th chapter and many verses of this 6th chapter. So we will see how. So just give me one moment. Here. Some philosophers also cannot believe that we had discussed this even last time in my last session, that some philosophers don't believe that there is anything beyond our self perception. Now, what is our sense perception? Means what we can't see, we don't believe in it. So for them, the elements of the universe are described to be the limbs of the Supreme Lord. That is the Virat Purusha basically. And if Lord has material form, then that form is universal form or Virat Purusha. So can we imagine material universe elements as form or part of spiritual Lord? If Lord is spiritual, how can the material part come from him? Yes, it can. It is bona fide and it is a justified imagination. And this is to convince the people who don't believe in something they can't see. And also we have learned before about Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, right? That anything universe comes out from the Lord, so it is the energy of the Lord. So everything, there is no difference between the energy of the Lord and energy. Energetic and energy are not separated, because if there is no energetic person, the energy will not come out. So in that sense, they are not different. That's what here we are trying to understand in this chapter. And so basically, Smriti has all the Puranas and it contains stories, and sometimes it is rejected by the Shruti followers, the Shankaracharya followers or impersonalists. And to establish the impersonal aspect of the Lord, the Shruti, it has a lot of some description that they highlight, and then they interpret it as if Lord is impersonal. And then they give importance to those Shruti mantras. And they interpret it in such a way that Lord has no form. So that's what they do. Then here we can see that Srila Prabhupada, he establishes Lord's glories also in these verses. He gives the purports by describing his pastimes, his devotees' pastimes, and ultimately the purpose of both is same, Shruti and Smriti, to glorify Supreme Lord and bring people closer to Supreme Lord. But those philosophers who interpret Shruti in such a way that impersonal understanding is brought out and they become more popular. So, to undo that and to re-establish Smriti also as authoritative and authentic, and it is coming from Vyasdev, Bhagavatam. So, Acharyas mentioned that facts in Puranas or Smriti also align with the Shruti. So we will see here the Purusha Shukta first prayer we can see it says Sahasra Shirsha Purusha Sahasraksha Saharsrapat Sabhumir Vishvato Vritva Atyadishta Dashangulam. So what I have put in green, it correlates with the green in the Bhagavatam verse, and red color is with the red. So whereas in the 35th verse, it here says 2535, Sa eva purushas tasmat andam nirbhidya nirgataha. Sahasrosva angri bahya akshaha sahasra nana sirshavan. So sahasra shirsha purusha. Who is that? They are not saying, they are just talking about Purusha in Purusha Sukta prayers. But we know from Bhagavatam that that Purusha is Garbhodakshai Vishnu, who is none other than Mahavishnu, and that is the energy of Krishna, the Lord. So the meaning of these two verses means that Purusha pierced the universe and he went inside the universe. There he resides with 1,000 legs, Sahasra Shirsha, right? Feet, arms, eyes, faces, and heads. Whatever existed in the past, whatever exists in the present, and whatever will exist in the future is covered by the Lord. So both the verses means the same. And also it says Purusha pierced universe and went outside. Now that means, outside means that outside universe is Mahavishnu, because Mahavishnu does not enter inside the material universe. He enters as Garbhodakshai Vishnu, means he is beyond and outside the universe as Mahavishnu, yet he entered universe as Garbhodakshai Vishnu. I hope everyone knows about the three Purusha, right? Karnodakshai Vishnu, Garbhodakshai Vishnu, and Shirodakshai Vishnu. I mean, that basic knowledge is required to understand this. And the second meaning of he remains outside indicates that Lord is not attached to the universe. When we create something, obviously we get attached to it, but Lord does not. And we know in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Maya tatam idam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina matsthani sarva bhutani nachaham teshva avasthitam. By me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. Nachamatstani bhutani pashyame yogam aishwaram bhutabrinna cha bhutastho mamatma bhuta bhavanaham. And yet everything that is created does not rest in me. Behold my mystic opulence, although I am the maintainer of all living entities, and although I am everywhere, I am not a part of this cosmic manifestation, for myself is the very source of creation. Now we also know in Bhagavad Gita in the beginning, Krishna showed his Vishwarupa to Arjuna, right? And in Bhagavad Gita 11:16, Aneka Bahudara Vaktra Netram Pashyami Tvam Sarvatonantarupam Nantam na Madhyam na Punastavadim Pashyami Vishveshwara Vishwarupa. So this is, I'm reading 11.16 Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna said that, O universal form, I see in your body many, many arms, bellies, mouths, and eyes, expanded everywhere without limit. I see in you no end, no middle, and no beginning. This is what Arjuna says. But actually, okay, so that Vishwarupa in Bhagavad Gita is same as Virat Rupa we are discussing in these chapters in Bhagavatam. So there what Arjuna saw is he saw the entire form in front of him, which is the universal form. And here Arjuna, it is the form of Krishna, where all the elements of entire universe are manifested in one place. That was displayed to Arjuna. And in Srimad Bhagavatam in 5th and 6th chapters, the universal form is manifested as universal form's description. And there, now here we are describing it in different elements, whereas in Bhagavad Gita, that form Arjuna saw as entire display. That's why he was so bewildered. Arjuna maybe, I don't know, 6 or 10 feet tall, but everywhere he could just see thousands of mouths, arms, legs, feet of Lord. And that is the universal form, the universe we are in, so many planetary system, basically is sometimes described as 14 planetary systems. Sometimes is described as the four varnas, Brahmana, Vaishya, Kshatriya, Shudra, right? Lord's mouth is Brahmana, then feet are Shudras, like that. So at certain times, universe is described in this way, but it is Garbhodakshai Vishnu's imaginary form for us to understand that all the senses come from Mahavishnu. It is comes through him to Garbhodakshai Vishnu. Then between Garbhodakshai Vishnu and us is this imaginary Virat Rupa, Vishwarupa, whereby through his senses we get all the senses, basically. So let's see. Now here also there is this mention of Dashangulam, right? So what is the meaning of Dashangulam? He extends beyond the universe by 10 fingers. That's what Purusha Shukta says. And in this chapter, in 13th verse, also it is explained. What it means is that we see these layers. Mahavishnu is beyond this material universe. He is outside. Inside is Garbhodakshai Vishnu here, and 14 planetary system. The imaginary form is Vishwarupa, which comes from Garbhodakshai Vishnu, from whom we get our senses. So the Shangulam means 10 inches. By 10 inches, by these layers, Mahavishnu is separated from this material universe, from the periphery of the universe. Now, that 10 inches is not actually 10 inches, it's just to say this is millions and millions and millions of miles. Each layer is, I think, 10 times thicker than the previous layer. It keeps getting denser and wider. But this Dashangulam here in Purusha Shukta is mentioning the distance between Mahavishnu and Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, who is within this universal Anda egg. Mahavishnu is outside, and the distance is this. The layers is separating them. This is the periphery of our universe. So this is how this is Shruti and Smriti, but they correlate, and whatever is also justified and it is completely bona fide, what is in Bhagavatam. And that is why this chapter Srila Prabhupada calls it Purusha Shukta confirmed, basically. So now we will move on to today's verses, and I wanted to also discuss the Yacha, the formula. So shall we, okay, let's do the formula first, and then we can recite 5, 6, and 7. Okay, so now here what we need to understand so far is that the different elements manifested from Lord's body for the manifestation of this universe. Within this universe, from Garbhodakshai Vishnu, multiple things will be manifested. Lord is source of universe and everything within universe. From Garbhodakshai Vishnu's subtle sense organs, 5 sense objects, tanmatras, come out, which is sound, touch, form, taste, and smell. These are tanmatras. And 5 gross elements come out, as Rupa Mataji said, earth, water, fire, air, ether. This is all generated from Garbhodakshai Vishnu's subtle sense organ. We use our sense organs to experience certain sense objects, right? See, for example, I want to see this mouse, so I am using my eyes. This is a sense object, and I am using my eyes. So to do any function, we use our sense organs. With my sense organ eyes, I see 2 things. For example, I'm seeing a clay pot. So I am seeing the pot, and that pot is made up of some element, earth element, clay. So the pot has a form and it is made up of clay element. Now clay pot has form and it is made up of earth element. The subtle sense object is form of clay pot and gross element from which it's made is earth, which is Adibhuta. And we need our eyes to see it, which is gross sense organ. So it will make it, I think, make more clear with the example here. So the first few shlokas, 1 to 4 shlokas are explaining that for any activity, for any sense interaction to happen, these certain things are required which are manifesting from Garbhodakshai Vishnu's gross and subtle sense organs, basically. So we use our sense organs to experience certain sense objects. With my sense organ, eyes, I see 2 things. And when I see clay pot, I see earth element and its form. Clay pot has form and is made up of earth element. So after this, I'll appreciate if someone can just repeat what we discussed regarding this formula. So then we'll get some satisfaction that someone understood, because it is very technical, but at the same time, it is very easy. So we need our eyes to see it, this is a gross sense organ, my eyes. Behind these eyes, there is a subtle sense organ, which is called chakshu. For example, I have a phone and the phone has a camera, right? So the camera is gross, but to take a photo, I also need app inside. So that app is subtle. So I need the camera and I need the app. I need both. Then I can take a picture, and I need light. So I need how many things? I need camera, I need app, I need light, and there should be an object whose picture I'm taking. So with that example, we can see that we have eyes, then that is a gross element, sense organ. Behind that, there is a chakshu, which is subtle sense organ. Now, every sense is monitored by sense devta, which is a demigod. So that is also required. So in the case of taking picture, I need light. For me to see, also I need light, or Surya, the sun sense devta, is behind it. And what I'm watching are the 2 things, the clay pot, which has a form, and the element it is made up of is clay. So these 5 things are required like that. The verses explain for skin, ears, tongue, nose, voice. It explains everything there. That, for example, to be able to hear, we need ears, right? We need our ears. And then the ear sense organ is called Shrotra. Like for eyes, sense organ is Chakshu. Then for ears, sense devta is Dig Devta. And what the ears do? Sound, and then it requires ether to be able to hear. So to summarize, we all have sense organs which has 2 parts, gross and subtle. And Lord also has gross and subtle sense organs. He has eyes, therefore we have eyes. Lord has limbs, that's why we have limbs. And between Garbhodakshaya Vishnu and us, there is this Vishwarupa, through whom we are getting all these senses and sense tanmatras and all the elements manifest. Just to make it a bit more simpler, 5 things are required to see something, and this is manifesting from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. For example, the phone requires a camera, it needs an app, there will be a clay pot made up of earth element, there is a sunlight, and then I can take a picture. In the same way, the camera is like, I need the eyes, there will be eyes is the gross sense. What I have put in green is referring here, corresponding. We will need chakshu, which is the subtle sense organ, or you call it adhyatma. These 2 things are required on our side, eyes and chakshu. Then there is adhibhuta, which is the form, clay pot, for example, or you can say this mouse, for example. And what is the mouse made up of? It is made up of earth element again. So element. These 2 things are required. And then the 5th thing required to be able to see is the sense devta, Adhidaiva, who is always watching and monitoring the activity. So these 5 things are required to see something, like that 5 things are required to hear something. 5 things are required for other tanmatras like skin, tongue, and nose to be able to smell, to be able to taste, to be able to hear, to be able to see, and to touch. These 5 things are required. So basically, if we understand this, then we can easily understand the first 16 shlokas. So this is like basically a formula. 5 things required to do any activity. So this is not very difficult, but it just gets complicated when we add things like terms like Adibhuta and all that. So it took me also some time today, all day, to put this together and to color it for my own understanding. So yeah, I hope, I mean, does this make sense? If someone can, then I don't know whether I was able to.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Yeah, you made sense. And just I have one question. Suddenly it came in my mind.
Yeah.
Nowadays they say, and not nowadays, I mean, even in the Shastra, they say that if there is an incident and 5 people are watching the same incident or, going through the same thing, they will perceive in different ways. So we have like, every one of us has different senses, obviously different mind, different kind of perception. So though we see or hear or whatever, go through same experience, but not the same experience, the same thing, but we perceive it differently. And when you were saying this is kind of the, like, 5 things are required to even for our senses to, say our eyes to see something. So 5 things are required. Sunlight is required, the object is required. But then again, each individual will see differently or taste it differently.
Yes, I got what you're saying. Okay, so right now what we are discussing is the visuals. So we are not discussing the logical part of it. I think where you are coming from is you are saying how they analyze things. Each person will be different according to their intelligence or according to their past impressions or their experiences, right? So that comes under how we analyze things once we have seen it. But at this stage, we are just talking about how the actions are Gnanendriyas and Karmendriyas are working, and then how for some activity to take place, these 5 things are required. What you're talking about is later on the other subtle part, which is intelligence or rationalizing or analyzing. So that does not come under this at all at this point. We are just talking about how to see or how to hear, just the basic senses, gross and subtle senses, and the form and element and sense devta is what we are talking about. I mean, does this make sense? Because at this point, the jiva is not analyzing anything.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Yeah, so that's what. So these are basically the beginning of sixth chapter, and all 16 shlokas are based on this formula. And Garbhodakshay Vishnu manifested the universe, and the universal form also manifested, which is the imagination of philosopher to map the elements of universe with the form of the Lord. Universal form is connection between Lord and the universe. Virat Rupa is combination of all the subtle sense organs of all the living beings in universe. All our senses come from him. And okay, so I have put page 188, that is in my book. But that's fine. We discussed about the skin and the ears and everything also works on the same basis. So from sense organs of the Lord, sense devtas and sense object and corresponding gross elements are manifested. From the senses of Garbhodakshay Vishnu, all our senses, sense objects form corresponding material elements, sense devtas, which are the presiding deity. For example, we discussed for eyes, the presiding deity is sun planet. So that devta facilitates the sense perception to manifest. So basically, that is the this is about how senses take action, how everything happens. And then today's verses are now we will discuss. So रोमान्युत भुजि जातिनां यैर्वा यज्ञस्तु संवृतः केशस्मर्श्रु नखान्यस्य शिलालोहाब्र विद्युताम्. So the fifth verse is the hairs on his body are the cause of all vegetation. So now this is Garbhodakshay Vishnu, particularly of those trees which are required as ingredients for sacrifice. The hairs on his head and face are reservoirs for the clouds, and his nails are breeding ground of electricity, stones, and iron ores. So the polished nails of the Lord generate electricity. The clouds rest on the hair of his head. One can therefore collect all sorts of necessities of life from the person of the Lord, and therefore Vedas affirm that everything that is produced is caused by the Lord. And this is quite straightforward, right? Sixth shloka. Bahavo lokapalanam prayashah shema karmanam. Lord's arms are the productive fields for the great demigods and other leaders of the living entities who protect the general mass. And here Srila Prabhupada reminds us of the shlokas of Bhagavad Gita. Yadyat vibhuti matsattvam Srimadurjivam evava tattadevavagachatvam mama tejamsha sambhavam अथवा बहुनैतेन किं ज्ञातेन तवार्जुन विष्टभ्या हम idam krishnam ekam sena sthito jagat. So this Gita shloka, everything manifests from Supreme Lord. Whatever that is wonderful or great or whatever is amazing, powerful in this material world is meant to convince us that Garbhodakshay Vishnu is cause of everything in the entire universe, directly or indirectly. So that is very nice. And also here in this purport, we can see Srila Prabhupada says that all the powerful kings and the demigods, they are all protecting the interest of universal affairs of the maintenance, and they are part and parcel of the Lord. And some of them, as particularly mentioned above, are specifically endowed with powers by the will of the Lord. So a sane person must know for certain that a living being, however powerful he may be, is neither absolute nor independent. All living beings must accept the origin of their specific power as mentioned in this verse. And if they act accordingly, then simply by discharging their respective occupational duties, they can achieve the highest perfection of life, namely eternal life. And Prabhupada talks about Maya, the actions of Maya. will always continue to act. And the actions of Maya are such that a powerful person misled by the illusory material energy wrongly accepts himself as all in all and does not develop God consciousness. So regarding Maya, we also know in Bhagavad Gita 7:14, um, Krishna clearly says that Devi Hesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratyaya. His Maya is very difficult to overcome. But Mameva ye prapadyante Maya metam tarantite. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. And how else can we also cross beyond it is when there is ignorance and darkness of ignorance, we need the light. And that light, Krishna is Surya Sama. Krishna Surya Sama, Maya Haya Andhakar. Yaha Krishna Taha Nahi, Maya Ra Adhikar. Krishna is compared to sunshine and Maya to darkness. Wherever there is sunshine, there cannot be darkness. As soon as one takes to Krishna consciousness, darkness of illusion will immediately vanish. And here also again, Srila Prabhupada says that false sense of egoism has become very prominent in this world. An intelligent class of men, therefore, must admit the Lord as the ultimate source of all energies. If a person tries to reciprocate a feeling of love towards Supreme Personality of Godhead and is satisfied with the blessings of the Lord, he will at once feel the highest peace of mind for which he is hankering life after life. And for that, one should be situate their mind in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Like the obedient son of the father never goes against will of the father and therefore passes life very peacefully in concurrence with the head of the family, the father. So this mentality will at once bring peace and prosperity to human society. So Srila Prabhupada clearly says that whatever is our occupation or wherever we are placed, what one needs to do is direct his activities to Supreme Personality of Godhead. Without that, there is no real peace. And peace can be brought only by that. So that reminded me to put this verse, which fits very nicely. ज्ञाने प्रयासमुदपास्य नमन्त एव जीवन्ति सन्मुखरितां भवदीयवार्तां स्थाने स्थिता श्रुतिगतां तनुवान् मनोभेर् ये प्रायशो जितजितोऽप्यसितैस्त्रिलोक्याम्. Anyone wants to read this translation of 10:14:3?
I can read it.
Yes, please, Chaitanya.
Those who, even while remaining situated in their established social positions, throw away the process of speculative knowledge, and with their body, words, mind, offer all respects to descriptions of your personality and activities, dedicating their lives to these narrations, which are vibrated by you personally and by your pure devotees, certainly conquer your lordship, although you are otherwise unconquerable by anyone within the three worlds. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. So, one more thing that comes to our the main essence here to understand this formula and everything. The main thing I can think of is that from here, I think we understood that all our senses are coming from senses of the Lord. Because Lord can see, we can see. Because Lord eats, we can eat. Because Lord can walk, we can walk. Because we are empowered by the Lord, by the sense Devta. Garbhodakshai Vishnu does not need the sense Devta like us. He does not need sun or moon to see anything because his form is completely spiritual. But for our purpose, between us and Garbhodakshai Vishnu is this Vishwarupa through whose senses we are getting all the senses. And we are able to operate. Any activity we are doing is due to these five things. So, if these senses are given to us by the Lord, then it becomes our utmost duty and responsibility to use these senses in the service of the Lord because they are given to us by the Lord. So we should use it in the service of the Lord, which is like a very straightforward logic. Therefore, also bhakti makes lot of sense. The devotional service, using it in Krishna's service, If we have basically cooked something with our hands and all the materials we brought with the money we earned, then we should offer it to the Lord first. We should use our mind and intelligence, our hands, everything in Krishna's service. We can chant, we can read, we can get together like this, we can use the computer for this purpose. Okay, we go to work, we may be accountant, doctor, so many of you, teachers, lawyers, whatever we are doing, working in a building industry, fine. But at the end of the day, like how this says, sthane sthita, whatever is your occupation, if it is channelized end of the day in the service of the Lord, then that is the right utility of all our senses that our body is made up of, because this is given to us and it is proven in this fifth and sixth chapter by Garbhodakshai Vishnu, by Virat Rupa, and that comes from Mahavishnu. And we know all these incarnations and Swarupas are none other coming from Krishna, as we know. So we should use it in Lord's service. And even here in the last verse that we have to discuss today, clearly it says that Krishna's lotus feet serve as protection from all kinds of fears. I don't think there is anyone who would not have any fear in the material world living here. Every living being has some or the other fear, and that can be overcome and we can get protection by serving the lotus feet. What does it mean, serving the lotus feet? Following the instructions of the Guru and Acharya and scriptures and performing devotional service. So, for absolute protection from all sorts of fear, as well as for our needs of life, we must take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Not only in this planet, but also in all the upper, lower, and heavenly planets. So here it says Vikramo Bhur Bhuva Shwascha. So this is talking about the three planetary systems, which is the lower planets, upper planets, earthly planets, and the heaven, three parts. What it is saying, that these forward steps of the Lord are the shelter of all these planetary systems. Obviously, we just saw here in this diagram, right, that this is where all this planetary system is nothing but the part of Garbhodakshai Vishnu, which is the imaginary bona fide temporary form as Virat Rupa. And this form is there to convince those people who only believe their eyes. They something they can't see, they don't believe. For example, we can't see intelligence, we can't see the mind, but it exists, right? Because it is subtle, we can't see it. So basically, that's what it means, that this is nothing but the Lord Himself. So there. So for this Lord's lotus feet, they are the protection. And learning this fifth and sixth chapter and creation and everything, even if we don't understand everything that is technical or all these questions, if we can just understand one thing, which is what is Adhishthanam and what was that? Yat Param. These two things also, if we understand, it is more than enough, that everything rests on Narayan. Everything depends on him. And everything has taken shelter of the Lord. Everything comes from the Lord. So even if we understand that much, then that will form a very good basis and foundation for our devotion. Many technical things, we will not understand everything. But from the greatness of Vishnu, Krishna, or Narayan, or three Purushas, if we can understand from this greatness of the Lord, that how great he is and why we should take shelter of Krishna, who is very sweet. Because when we discuss Vrindavan pastimes or other pastimes, there is a lot of sweetness. But I feel awkward when it is talking about the greatness or technical parts, because they are sometimes beyond to explain. Sometimes you can understand but not able to explain. So one thing we can understand is that everything comes from the Lord, and that's why we should take his shelter and take the shelter of his lotus feet. If we understand even that much, then I think that should summarize everything in today's class. And This is also very beautiful verse here, because I think one of the verses said Bahavo Lokapalanam. So the same is repeated here. So I put that verse here. Oh, we have gone beyond time. I'm very sorry. You can read this at home. 1:11:26. And there are beautiful verses explaining the lotus feet of the Lord's. What are the two benefits of meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord? So first benefit is it dispels the thick gloom of one's heart. Means what? It removes the ignorance of our heart, because there is ignorance. We go through many problems and shortcomings and anarthas like lust, greed, anger, pride, all these things we face in our life because there is ignorance of our identity. Basically, we are Gopi Bharatur Padakamalayod Das Dasanu Das. Our identity is we belong to Krishna. We are his servant. If we understand that, then we will not be very much affected by the dualities of this world. Basically, someone has said something to us or offended us, or sometimes there is a defeat instead of victory. There is heat and cold. All these dualities in life will not affect us that much if we understand, go beyond our bodily conception and see us as our true identity, which is we belong to Krishna. And the second effect of meditating on his lotus feet is it shatters the mountain of sin stored in the mind of the meditating devotee. Meditating devotee, how do we meditate in ISKCON Krishna consciousness? Is by chanting the holy names of the Lord. They are so powerful that all the sinful reactions are completely burnt when we take shelter of holy name, chanting the names of the Lord, because holy name is has all the potencies of the Lord is within holy name. Within one word Krishna, all the potencies and power of the Lord manifest. So we can always go later and see these beautiful verses and the two effects. So sorry for going beyond. I would like to close now. I hope what I spoke today made sense. Please forgive me for my shortcomings and mistakes. And yeah, if there is anything anyone wants to share or add to what we discussed, please go ahead. Or we can close today. Anyone has any questions or anything they want to add?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. So nice. You explain like in much more detail than I think anyone else, right? You give lots of examples also, simple examples, but yet very nice to understand. So thank you so much, Mataji. Very nice class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Thank you for your encouragement. And so we will meet soon again, hopefully. And Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya, Kripa Sindhu Devacha, Patitanam Pavnebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo. Thank you. Hare
Thank you, Mataji. Very nice class. Very good.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.